This is 1920. Time to live a little.
The 20s and 30s are an interesting period because in some ways they're becoming much, much more recognisably the modern world.
We started with 1920 and things had changed, particularly sort of hairstyles changed at that time. Both Maggie and Caroline have done fantastic jobs.
It's sort of moved on from the last series into the 1920s, which is quite it's quite a different look.
Well, it's an extraordinary time for fashion, and I think people's perception of the 20s is very different to 1920.
The moment you write 1920 in a script, everyone thinks mad flappers are coming in doing the Charleston. And when you say, but actually the year of the Charleston was 1926, that they're shocked. They think it was sort of jazz and we're off.
I'm sorry if it's all a bit casual.
It's exciting, Lord Grantham. I feel like one of those bright young people they write about in the newspapers.
We sat down and we looked at a lot of reference from that era, and then we set about trying to make it real.
I'm interested in the drama. They've got to put those clothes on and believe Michelle's Lady Mary or Shirley MacLaine is Martha Levinson.
We introduced the looks that were becoming more common in the 1920s and which gave a signature to the 1920s, if you like. So it was a way of introducing them at the right time with the right characters.
We've brought in the Marcel wave into this so that it would be very sort of specific look and moving them all on gradually so they don't all start the new series with a new hairstyle.
Julian wrote in on series 2 gadget for curling your hair, for electric tongs, which we managed to get hold of.
It's painstakingly applied in the same way it was in 1920, which is with a pair of hot tongs on your hair.
This is a much softer version, whereas Lady Edith has a kind of more, there are more waves.
Once it's in. You've got to wash it all out to get rid of it. But it's beautiful. I think it's such a glamorous hairdo. It's incredible. But I do go home at the end of the day looking a bit odd in my jeans and T-shirt and Marcel wave.
You shouldn't watch a scene and go, oh, I really, really love the frock or the hair or whatever in that. First and foremost, I think we should have an emotional response to the script and what's being said. But then all those things add to that. And it might be as we come away from it, we think, God, that looked really good.
Background action. And action!
Mrs. Patmore, what is it now?
It's smoking, the range.
The wind must be in the wrong direction. Just rake it through.
Where's Alfred?
Why?
Where's Alfred?
I think he's in the servants' hall.
Got there, checking that, thank you.
Anyone who watches Downton Abbey sees the huge divide between men and women. Women have to work really hard in this house. They're scrubbing, cleaning, they're on their hands and knees, they're shaking out dust. The men just look beautiful in their footman's outfits and wander around delivering messages to Lord and Lady Grantham. So when something like a Hoover or a toaster arrived, what it hailed was that a woman's role would still be completed, but she wouldn't have to work quite so hard. Carson is horrified because Carson doesn't want to ever see change. He'd be quite happy to bring Queen Victoria back. He doesn't want anything ever to alter in the perfect world that he believes is unchangeable.
You see it happening now. People bemused by the pace of change with technology, and they bury their heads in the sand and decide, no, this isn't for me, I can't cope, and it's all wrong. What in God's name is it?
An electric toaster.
Well, Elsie Hughes gets a toaster, and that's a new thing. It nearly burns the place down.
If it's any good, I'm going to suggest getting one for the upstairs breakfasts.
Is it not enough that we're sheltering a dangerous revolutionary, Mrs. Hughes?
The electrical things are coming in now, aren't they? I don't think I've got a blender yet, but...
We've got a toaster and a Hoover. God knows what's going to come next. Get women down on their knees, dusting by hand. Yes, Mr. Carson, you silly old fool.
There was the evolution of new gadgets. There was a desire to live. And in living, women wanted new fashions. There's this freedom, this sort of openness, which hints also at social change.
Women have changed.
you know, and the clothes reflect that.
In the 20s, the waists sort of drop. I mean, I think about the first series and it was all very high waist and very tight corsets. It's getting a bit looser now. And the skirts are coming up a little bit, so we're seeing a bit more ankle. It's very exciting.
Hemlines have come up, the clothes have become more draped and less constricting. It's really a beautiful period of history to do.
This Grecian sort of style was around a lot. In fact, there's a picture upstairs in one of the bedrooms of a lady looking exactly like this, dated 23, I think, 1923. As much as you get to know your own style and what you think's right and what Caroline thinks works, you know, you get to know the others. Sybil's got this lovely bohemian feel, and with the pregnancy, that's just gorgeous, these big flowing dresses.
Caroline's amazing, basically, and she sort of talked me through the fact that they were going to bring that sort of element out of a freer nature.
One thing that's liberating is not being in that corset. That's huge.
I prefer this look to the other two series because it's far more, I mean, it's far more comfortable for a start.
The girls are mostly wearing bandeau corsets and flat bust-flattening bras.
So this year I've been awful. I've been slouched. Because I don't have a corset now, and you're doing, you know, one of the long, infinitely long dinner scenes, and being told, yes, just remember, and I'm like, I'm a pregnant woman.
You might recognise this costume from last year. It's the same dress. And embarrassingly, we were just saying that it was popping open, so that's a bit embarrassing that I'm actually growing out of my costume. But I'm gonna blame the new corsets because it's 1920s corsets. So the body shape's completely changed because they're like kind of androgynous and straight up, straight down.
This is my ladies' maid outfit, so I would always be in black now. So this is my day ladies' maid outfit, which is slightly more casual, a blouse and a skirt. And then I have a slightly more dressy black dress for the evening now. And my hair, that I've nicknamed myself Hildegard with this hair. I feel like I should be, you know, speaking a different accent.
Gosh, you see, here we are, Series 3. I'm in the same jacket. I could just about still get into it. I've got two costumes, you know. I mean, this, an evening one and a daytime one. All the girls' fashions have changed and they're all gorgeous. Same thing.
The fashion now for men is, it's all sort of about defining the waist. When we start with Matthew's got a couple of suits that still suggest that he's a solicitor and that's where he's come from. He's got country suits as well to show that he's part of the family and part of the establishment. But then also has this frivolous side, so he also has this sort of more motoring look as well. Branson comes in sort of not as together as the others. And he's come from Dublin and he's a writer and he has that sort of romantic thrown together. He should sort of look a little bit thrown together in episode 1 and when they pull him together for the wedding.
Why was it you wanted to see me?